Marcus Johnson had learned from a young age that the world saw his skin before it saw his heart. From the dusty streets of his childhood to the crowded buses of the city, he carried a shadow that wasn't his own making, the shadow of prejudice. Every step he took felt like walking under a magnifying glass. When he entered a store, the clerk's eyes followed him, suspicious and cold. When he rode the subway, mothers pulled their children closer, as though Marcus himself was danger. But Marcus was the opposite of what they imagined. He worked late shifts at a factory, came home exhausted, and still found time to help his elderly neighbor carry groceries up the stairs. He had dreams of one day owning his own repair shop, but those dreams always seemed just beyond his grasp. Life had taught him to bow his head, to swallow his pride, to endure in silence. Yet at night, when the city grew quiet, Marcus felt a weight pressing down. The humiliations replayed in his mind like cruel whispers. You'll never be enough. Go back where you came from. You don't belong here. And yet, he never gave up. He carried himself with quiet dignity, like a soldier walking through a battlefield. His heart longed not for revenge, but for respect. Still, he couldn't shake the thought, would the world ever see him for who he really was? Or would he forever remain invisible, until the day came when his courage would force the world to notice? That day was closer than he knew. The night was cool, the streets bathed in a pale glow from the flickering lamps. Marcus walked home from his shift, hands in his pockets, shoulders heavy with exhaustion. The hum of the city was distant, taxis speeding by, faint laughter from a bar down the street. But then a scream tore through the night. Sharp, desperate, female. Marcus froze, his pulse quickening. Ahead, under the harsh beam of a streetlight, 3 young men cornered a woman. She clutched her purse to her chest, trembling, her voice breaking as she pleaded, "Please, just let me go." The men sneered. One yanked her purse, another shoved her hard against the wall. She cried out in pain, her hair tumbling over her face. And still, no one came. The people nearby turned their heads, hurried their steps, vanished into the safety of shadows. Marcus's fist tightened. His instinct screamed to help, but memories of past humiliations clawed at him. He could already hear the mockery. "Mind your business, boy." He had learned that stepping forward often meant stepping into danger. But when one of the men grabbed the woman by the wrist and she let out a sob so raw it pierced the air, Marcus's hesitation cracked. He stepped closer. "Hey!" His voice low but steady. "Let her go." The men turned, their laughter sharp as knives. One smirked, eyes full of disdain. Well, look who thinks he's a hero. Listen, boy, this ain't your fight." The word boy hit like a slap, carrying years of poison. Marcus's jaw tightened. He had heard it too many times. The men's eyes glittered with both amusement and threat. And then one of them pulled something from his jacket, the cold glint of metal under the streetlight. A gun. Time slowed. The gun gleamed in the attacker's hand, its barrel steady on Emily, the terrified young woman pinned against the wall. She froze, eyes wide, her lips trembling. Marcus's heart thundered. His body screamed to run. He thought of his mother's words when he was a child. "Don't ever draw attention, Marcus. Stay safe. Stay quiet." But how could he stay quiet now, when a life trembled on the edge of an abyss? He stepped forward, his voice trembling but firm. "Don't do this. You've already taken enough. Let her walk away." The men laughed, cruel and careless. "You think you matter?" One sneered. "You're nothing. You're trash." Marcus ignored the words. His eyes locked with Emily's, and in that instant, something passed between them. Her silent plea, his unspoken promise. And then the shot rang out. Bang! The sound cracked the night open. Emily gasped, her scream slicing through the air. Marcus staggered, clutching his chest as warmth spread beneath his fingers. The bullet had found him, tearing through flesh meant to protect. His legs buckled, the pavement rising up to meet him. Emily dropped to her knees beside him, her hands trembling as she pressed against his wound. Tears streamed down her face, her voice breaking. "Stay with me. Please, don't leave me." Marcus's breath came in ragged gasps. His vision blurred, but he forced his lips to move. "Don't be afraid. You're saved now." The men snickered, retreating into the night like cowards, leaving behind the wreckage of cruelty. Emily's sobs echoed, mingling with the sirens now wailing in the distance. The world grew dim for Marcus, but even as darkness tugged at him, he felt no regret. He had made his choice, and for the first time in his life, he knew he mattered. The street was chaos. Emily's hand shook as she pressed against Marcus's chest, trying to hold back the river of red. Her cries filled the night, desperate and raw. People finally emerged from the shadows, whispering, pointing, but keeping their distance. No one dared kneel beside them. No one but her. Marcus's breaths rattled, shallow and uneven. His eyes fluttered, but he forced them open, meeting Emily's gaze. She could see the pain etched deep, but also something more, a strange calm, a quiet bravery. "You didn't even know me," Emily whispered, her tears dripping onto his shirt. "Why? Why would you do this?" Marcus coughed, blood staining his lips. His voice was faint, but steady. "Because I know what it feels like when no one comes." Her heart shattered. She pressed her forehead to his, clutching his hand as if it alone could anchor him to life. The sirens grew louder, red and blue lights flashing against the walls. EMTs rushed in, shouting orders, pulling Emily back as they worked to stabilize him. She cried out, reaching for him as they lifted him onto a stretcher. "Don't take him. Please, don't let him go." But Marcus was slipping, his consciousness fading as the world turned into a blur of sirens and desperate prayers. And still, even in the haze, he whispered one final word before the darkness claimed him. "Save." The hospital smelled of antiseptic and fear. Emily sat outside the emergency room, her clothes stained with his blood, her hands trembling as she replayed the moment over and over. The gunshot, his fall, his sacrifice. Hours passed. Every second stretched like eternity. Finally, a doctor emerged, his face tired but calm. "He's alive. The bullet missed his heart by inches. He'll need time, but he's strong." Relief flooded Emily, tears pouring down unchecked. She whispered a prayer of thanks. But then, as nurses wheeled Marcus past, something strange happened. A detective standing nearby froze. His eyes widened as if he were staring at a ghost. "That's Marcus Johnson," the detective murmured. "We've been looking for him. He's one of ours. An undercover federal agent." Emily's jaw dropped. She stared at Marcus's unconscious face, trying to process the words. A man mocked, belittled, treated like nothing, was, in truth, a protector all along. The world had never seen him for who he was. But Emily now understood. He wasn't just a stranger who saved her. He was a man who carried silent battles, unseen by all, until tonight. The courtroom was packed, the air heavy with tension. The young men who had terrorized Emily and nearly ended Marcus's life sat slouched to the defense table, their smirks dripping with arrogance. They whispered and laughed as though certain they'd walk free. Emily sat in the front row, her hands clenched tightly together. Her heart hammered as the judge entered, and silence fell. Then the doors creaked open, and every head turned. Marcus entered. Bandages wrapped his chest, his steps slow but steady. Gasps rippled through the room. The attackers' faces paled, the smirks slipping away as the man they thought was gone forever stood alive before them. The prosecutor rose, voice sharp as steel. "Your Honor, the defendants are charged with armed robbery, assault, attempted murder, and hate crimes. The victim they tried to silence stands before you today, alive, because of his own courage." Emily was called to testify. Her voice trembled, but she stood tall. "They laughed when they hurt me. They laughed when they shot him. But he stood up when no one else would. He didn't even know me. He saved me." Marcus's turn came. He walked slowly to the stand, his gaze steady, his voice calm yet powerful. "They thought my life was worth less because of the color of my skin. They thought no one would care. But tonight, I'm here to tell you, I cared. I cared enough to stand up when everyone else walked away. And I will never regret that." The room was silent, every word sinking deep. The judge's gavel struck. Guilty on all counts. The men's laughter died forever. Justice, swift and unshakable, thundered through the courtroom. For once, Marcus was not invisible. For once, the world saw his worth. Weeks later, sunlight streamed through the hospital room. Marcus sat by the window, healing slowly, his body scarred but his spirit unbroken. He heard the door creak open and turned. Emily stood there, carrying flowers, her eyes soft with gratitude. She walked to his side, placing the bouquet gently on the table. Her voice wavered. "You didn't just save my life that night, Marcus. You changed it. You showed me what real courage looks like." Marcus smiled faintly, his hand resting over hers. "I just did what I knew was right. Anyone would have." "No," Emily interrupted firmly, her eyes filling with tears. "Not anyone. People ran away. You stayed. You bled for me, and I will never forget that." For a long moment, they sat in silence, the unspoken words hanging in the air. Then, softly, Emily whispered a truth she could no longer keep inside. "I don't want you to be just the man who saved me. I want you to be the man I walk beside for the rest of my life." Marcus's breath caught. For years, he had been overlooked, dismissed, humiliated. But here, in this moment, he was seen fully, completely. He reached for her hand, his voice low and steady. "Then let's walk this road together." Tears glistened in Emily's eyes as she leaned closer, resting her forehead against his. In that quiet hospital room, love blossomed from the ashes of hate, stronger than any wound, brighter than any darkness. And so, the man once mocked, dismissed, and overlooked became not just a hero, but a partner cherished and chosen. Sometimes, the people the world looks down on rise to heights no one could imagine. Sometimes, love is born from sacrifice. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to comment where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another powerful story like this. Now let me ask you, what would you have done if you were there?